All right, so we're digging into this North London Derby, and you've brought us this match review from Spurs 9501.
Oh, yeah.
And
This is a juicy one.
yeah, they're not holding back, are they?
Yeah, they're not.
But we're going to unpack this loss and see what it says about Tottenham this season.
Yeah, because, I mean, this isn't like just, a regular old defeat, right? This is Arsenal.
Exactly.
This is the North London Derby.
It's a whole different beast.
Huge.
And you could almost hear like the rivalry in the writing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Spurs 9501 keeps saying that Tottenham's attack was toothless.
Yeah.
Like over and over again.
Multiple times.
That really stood out to me.
Well, and I think what's interesting about that word choice, too, toothless, is that it sort of suggests like a lack of bite up front.
Right?
Which is like especially concerned. Right, because they've got some big names.
Yeah, they've got attacking talent on paper.
For sure.
So it's not just about, missing a couple of chances here and there.
Right.
It seems like they weren't even able to create those chances in the first place.
Exactly. And that's what makes it even more concerning is that Spurs 9501 mentions that there have been similar struggles in previous games as well.
Okay.
So it's becoming a bit of a pattern, it seems like.
So the question is, what's the root cause here?
Right, because is this a post-Kokoglu problem?
Yeah. Is it tactical?
Yeah.
Are the players just not gelling well together? Is it just early season jitters?
I mean, if you were post-Kokoglu, where would you even start to unpack a performance like this?
I mean, I think you have to start with the lineup.
Okay.
And the tactical decisions that were made.
Okay.
And speaking of which...
We got to talk about Kulusevski playing number 10.
Yeah, this was interesting.
Because for those who maybe aren't as familiar, the number 10 traditionally is central behind the striker.
Right.
And they're often like the creative hub of the team. And, Spurs 9501 was not convinced by this choice.
They weren't into it at all.
No.
And they made a really good point about how that positioning kind of negates his strengths.
Yeah.
Kulusevski is known for his speed and his crosses.
Right. He's much more dangerous on the wing.
Exactly. And putting him in the center limits that,
Totally. It's like asking a racehorse to pull a plow.
Right. Exactly.
It's just not playing to his strengths.
It's not a good fit. And on top of that, it disrupts a player like Maddison.
Right.
Who thrives in that central role.
Yeah.
So it just seems like one of those things where the manager's trying something new.
Yeah.
And it's just not clicking.
Right. But is this Postecoglou experimenting?
Yeah.
Or was this like a move out of desperation?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a big question.
Because it gives us a glimpse into his style.
Totally.
Is he adaptable?
Is he willing to take risks, even if it means, maybe a couple of hiccups early on in the season?
Right. And speaking of hiccups,
we
have to talk about the elephant in the room. Or really the Achilles heel on the pitch.
Let's hear it.
Set pieces.
The dreaded set pieces.
Spurs 9501 did not have kind words for these.
Oh, really?
Saying that Spurs and set pieces are like a match made in hell or something.
How would you tell us how you really feel?
Right.
But you know what? In all seriousness, the source is right to highlight this because they're so often overlooked.
Oh, really?
And yet they can be so decisive.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially in close games.
They can make or break you.
Absolutely. And for Tottenham, it's been a recurring weakness.
It has been, yeah. And Spurs 9501 was particularly critical of Vicario.
Really?
They said he just looked shaky dealing with those set-piece deliveries.
Okay, so that's huge, right? Because the goalkeeper's confidence and their command of the penalty area can really make or break a team's defense when it comes to set pieces.
Totally, yeah.
So if he's not claiming those crosses with authority,
right,
it puts a ton of pressure on that back line.
And speaking of pressure,
yeah,
the review also talks about how Romero, who was marking Gabriel on that set-piece goal, was caught out of position.
Right.
Shouldn't the goalkeeper be the one taking charge in that situation?
Well, yeah, I mean, ideally you want a goalkeeper who can just really command that box,
Right, take charge.
Take control. And that's why this observation from Spurs Lane 501 is so interesting because it's not just about the one goal, right? It points to maybe a larger pattern of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And that can impact the entire defensive unit.
Uncertainty is contagious.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially in those high-pressure moments come on, it's the North London Derby.
Of course.
The tension is high.
Yeah. If one player's hesitant, it just spreads.
It ripples through the entire team.
Like wildfire.
And speaking of things that can spread, Spurs 9501 touched on the mental side of the game a little bit too.
Yeah.
Saying that, Tottenham needs to kind of step it up in these derbies. That there's a mental barrier that they have to break through.
Right, because we spend so much time talking about tactics and the physical aspects of the game.
Of course, yeah.
But that mental side of things is just as important.
Oh, huge.
If not more so sometimes.
Absolutely. And especially in rivalries.
Oh my gosh. Think about it.
Yeah.
You walk out onto that pitch and you're facing a team that's gotten the better of you.
They've had your number.
In recent history. And then you add on top of that the pressure, the weight of expectation.
All those years, all that baggage.
It's a lot. It can be a huge psychological burden.
Yeah, and Arsenal haven't exactly made it easy for them recently either.
No, not at all.
So those past defeats can really creep into your mind,
Yeah, and affect your confidence. It becomes this vicious cycle where those past losses fuel the doubt, which then leads to more tentative play.
Right, you're playing scared almost.
Exactly, and it often leads to even more losses.
So how do you break that cycle then?
Well, it takes a massive mindset shift.
Easier said than done.
Oh, for sure. It's not easy. It takes strong leadership.
Okay.
From both the manager and the senior players.
Yeah.
And this collective belief in their ability to overcome it.
So it's about changing the narrative almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of letting yourself be haunted by those ghosts of Derby's past.
Right.
It's about writing a new chapter.
Love that.
But how do you actually make that shift?
It's a process, and it's not easy, but I think it starts with focusing on what you can control.
Okay.
So focusing on your strengths, on what you've done well.
Okay.
And using that to drive you forward.
So almost like a we're in this together kind of mentality.
Yes, exactly. That siege mentality can be so powerful.
Right, like us against the world.
Yeah, because it forces you to come together as a team.
Right.
As one unit.
Yeah.
And prove that you're capable of achieving great things.
It sounds like this loss wasn't just about the 3 points.
No, it wasn't.
It feels like it exposed some cracks.
Yeah, in their strategy, in their execution, but I think most importantly in their belief.
Yeah.
When it matters most.
Those big moments.
Exactly. And, that's what makes these deep dives so interesting because we get to go beyond the surface level.
Right.
And look at all these factors that go into a team's performance.
Yeah, it's like that saying, football is a simple game complicated by idiots.
Right.
But in this case, it's less about idiots and more about...
Well, it's more about this intricate web of tactical nuances and individual brilliance.
Yeah, that mental game.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Which is huge.
Absolutely.
And one last thing from Spurs 9501 that really stood out to me.
Okay.
They said, this wasn't just another game.
Right.
And they're white fight.
Yeah.
Because the North London Derby has so much weight.
Oh, it's massive.
Historically and emotionally, it's like a chance to make a statement.
It is, and I think for Spurs fans, the statement wasn't what they were hoping for.
Not quite the statement they wanted to make.
Because it really just magnified their weaknesses.
Yeah.
That lack of attacking sparked the vulnerability on set pieces.
They were all over the place.
And, more than anything, that mental hurdle that just seems to pop up.
Especially against their rivals.
Yeah, exactly, against Arsenal. And, it's like they say pressure either bursts pipes or makes diamonds.
Oh, I like that.
And right now, Tottenham's got some leaky pipes.
Yeah, a few leaks to fix for sure.
Yeah.
But the big question is, can they use this loss as fuel?
Right, because it's got to be painful.
Oh, for sure. But can they channel that pain?
To come back stronger, because what matters most isn't how you fall down, it's how you get back up.
So true. And I think as Spurs fans, we're all hoping they get up swinging,
Yeah.
ready to fight for those bragging rights the next time they face Arsenal.
Absolutely. So to wrap up this deep dive into this brutal North London derby.
What are your key takeaways?
Well, I think for me, Tottenham has all the tools to be a real contender in this league.
Okay.
But they've got to find some consistency, both tactically and mentally. They need to figure out those recurring issues, and they have got to break through that mental barrier.
Especially in these big games.
Yeah, when the pressure's on.
So much easier said than done, though.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Well, maybe this deep dive will give them something to think about.
I hope so.
Until next time, remember, sometimes we learn more from a loss than we do from a win.
So true.
Keep those thinking caps on, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.